Hi there, Phil the Practical Gardener again. This topic is about cloches. Cloches are a structure that we use to grow crops in early spring before it's really warm enough to be able to grow them easily, however to give them some form of protection from frost and cold. The difference of a cloche from a glass house or a tunnel house, a greenhouse in some form, is that we don't walk inside a cloche. So with a glass house we can walk inside to tend the plants. With a cloche the plant is inside and we're outside it, and we can lift the side on it, or we can sometimes just lift the cloche right off to tend to the plants. Usually when the crop is large enough, and here I'm looking at things like zucchinis or tomatoes or sweet peppers, we actually remove the cloche from the plant, although sometimes we can actually open up one side to allow it to flow out the other side, and it gives us some protection from the wind. I'm going to look at a range of different forms of cloche, from some of the most elaborate to the less so, and also we'll talk a little bit about the management of it. So without more ado, let's get into it. Firstly, glass cloches. Bell cloches were the traditional form before plastics were invented, and are still often used for potages where style is an issue. The expense of more elaborate construction means that glass cloches are used mainly for high value crops such as chilies or ginger. Some glass cloches have vents to allow cooling on hot days. With other types the whole cloche is removed on hot day. Next, plastic covered cloches. Now there's a bewildering range of these available, usually cheap and flexible in usage. Once assembled, these forms are time consuming to deconstruct for storage, so are often kept in the garden all year, like these of Murray's. Others can be readily folded up in one piece. However, some of these are quite flimsy and prone to wind damage. Ventilation is provided with vents or by lifting the cloche off the plants. You can make a simple plastic cloche out of a soft drink bottle. Plastic cloches aren't as long lasting as glass ones. Thirdly, moving on to tunnel cloches. These are suitable for larger gardens mainly. A length of plastic is pulled over metal or plastic hoops and fastened at the ends, making for a light but strong structure. The typical dimension is about 700 millimeters wide by 450 millimeters high, that is 2'6" by 1'6", and a varying length. With these systems, clips are often used to hold the cover onto the sides. These can be used to raise one side of the cloche to allow for ventilation. Next, frames. A permanent glass covered structure is called a frame. Here is one I saw at the Chelsea Flower Show. Olivia and Julian have simply made a frame for early vegetables using recycled windows. Lastly, insect-proof cloches. The structures above can be used for pest protection if covered with insect and bird-proof netting rather than glass or plastic film. This system can be very effective and avoids the need to spray with insecticides. However, the netting needs to be firmly pinned down the edges so there are no gaps for insects to enter. Next we'll discuss a few points about the management of cloches and similar structures. Tunnel systems can be set up before the crop is planted in early spring. This avoids the risk of damaging the plants during construction and also helps to warm the soil up before planting. Cultivation in turn needs to be done before the cloche is constructed. Small portable cloches can be put up when the crop is planted. The crops grown in the cloche are usually frost tender plants such as sweet chilies, tomatoes, cucumbers and zucchinis. These can be planted as established seedlings, started in a hothouse or purchased from a garden shop. Don't make the mistake of planting the crop too early, as most cloches will only protect against slight frost. Cloches provide an inviting home for weeds and pests, so vigilance is required. Black plastic can be laid on the soil before planting to reduce the need for weeding. Cloches can get extremely hot very quickly during the day, so you need to be watchful opening the vents. This is usually done on the leeward side of the structure, therefore retaining maximum wind protection. The cloche can be removed as the crop grows and the weather gets warmer. Alternatively, it is kept in position all season and the leeward side kept permanently open while the plants grow. This ensures ongoing shelter for the developing crop. So I hope that's given you a few ideas about using cloche in your garden. They really are a cost-effective way of managing your crops. This is actually quite early in the season. It is actually late winter where I'm filming, so I don't actually have any cloches up. We do actually have a number of crops that we are picking in the garden still: leek, broccoli and cauliflower, cabbages, and also fresh peas, as you can see here. Now, this is the last one of the tips that I'm doing on protected crops. So I have done them on a range of aspects, such as the location and positioning of your protective structures, the cladding, the type of structure that you might use, also things like heating and growing, using the house as a protected structure, and then finally, of course, using cloches. I have got the full range of playlists about all aspects about landscaping and gardening, so look under those playlists for specific aspects. Particularly if you're thinking about cloches and protected structures, my vegetables, where I have talked about a number where I do protect my crops, such as behind me, my tomato house, where I still actually in late winter still picking some sweet peppers. I have now got a book which is available called Down to Earth Gardening. It's got 202 tips, the same ones I'm gradually working towards with these videos. So I've now filmed over 100 of these tips, but there are actually 202 in the books. If they're not available to you locally, you can actually find them through the marketplaces that I've linked down below. So finally, thank you of course watching this through to the end, and I hope that you like this. If you got some value out of it, because that really does help me, share it with others and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. Bye for now.